Hello, and welcome to Marathon Swim Stories, where we connect with marathon swimmers around the world to find out how they got started, what makes them tick, and why they keep going. It's where we explore the human side of the superhuman feats of endurance swimmers, the connections that we have with each other, our support crew, and the waters we cross. If you've ever stood at the edge of a body of water and wondered what it would be like to swim to the other side, you're in good company. I'm Shannon Keegan, marathon swimmer, water relationship coach, and founder of Intrepid Water, where I virtually teach swimming freedom. Freedom to get started, shed the confines of the pool, or your preconceived notions of what's possible. Find out more at intrepidwater.com. Have you seen the posts in the Facebook groups for open water swimmers where people share images from their GPS watches displaying shapes, figures, sometimes letters? Some people can spell out entire words in cursive. Mind you, they can't see what they're drawing until they're done with their swim. Well, as far as I'm concerned, Melodee Liegl invented the sport of swim art. I certainly can't prove it, but for as long as I can remember, Melodee has been posting amazing swim art. You should check out her Facebook page. A resident of Lake Country in Wisconsin, there are no shortage of canvases for her art. While Melodee claims to be just a girl who loves swimming, it's clear that swimming has been a vehicle to some amazing destinations. I hope you enjoy Melodee's story. I'm here with Melodee today, Melodee Liegl, right? Yes? Okay. Tell me, what's your story, Melodee?
Oh, my story. I've always been exposed to the water. My parents had belonged to a private club growing up, and it was called the Greendale Village Club. And there were 3 pools, a baby pool, intermediate, and large. And I have memories of the little baby pool and kind of skipping over the intermediate pool and into the big pool. So I've always been exposed to the water, and I didn't even really take any swim lessons. I would just play there all day. And a lot of our friends didn't belong because it was a private club. And I don't know what I did all day. I was in the water and I was playing, but I would ride my bike down at 12 o'clock when I opened, through the woods all by myself, little kid, and then come home at 5 o'clock and just be in the water all day. So that was how I've always been exposed to the water. And then I joined a swim club in like 7th grade. And that's kind of where I got my formal lessons from for swimming. And then in high school, I swam on my own, or I swam in high school. I swam butterfly and backstroke. Those were my chosen strokes. And I thought the girl who did the 500 was nuts.
Right.
I just looked at her. I go, how can she do that? That's so boring. And then in college, I swam on my own. But then soon after I got married, we joined the Y. And then I have been a master swimmer since 1995.
Oh, wow. What kind of drew you back to in 7th grade? What kind of made you want to be on a team? Was there any kind of impetus for that?
Well, I do have a hip problem. So I have hip dysplasia. And so swimming's really the only sport that I can do. And that's because I was one of those babies that had a half body cast soon after I was born. So they tried to get the angle correct, and then that wasn't really right. So I had a couple surgeries on my hip when I was little. And then as I grew, there was a 1-inch leg difference that I had.
Ah, wow.
So any activity would have been too hard for me to do. So swimming was a perfect fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one reason. And it just was my happy place. I liked swimming. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you still like swimming, I presume. So when you say that like in high school and like in college, like you swam on your own, that was just like kind of a form of exercise?
A form of exercise. I have so little I can do. I need a pool pretty much. And when I was 18, after one of my last surgeries, and I thought I was like all fixed and perfect after that, even though I had a little bit of a limp. And I remember him saying, watch your weight and you're going to need hip replacement by the time you're 40. And I was just in there like this little kid. I'm like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting to hear. I thought I'm pretty good. And so I was able to put off the hip replacement until I was 50 years old.
Wow.
And I really didn't think I would need it because somewhere along the way, I work at a hospital and research. And my pediatrician, orthopedic guy, he was still there like 15 years ago. And he was old back then. He was even older then. And he said, I'd love to see a picture of your hip x-ray. And I said, I'll give you an x-ray picture. And he totally said, like, I don't think you'll ever need it.
Wow.
So in my mind, I kind of thought that. But as the years went by, in my late 40s, I was really slowing down. But I just assumed that was what I was dealt with. And I can deal with it. It's no big deal. But I would avoid going for long walks and stuff, or even going to a festival or something, because it involved walking and I just couldn't walk that much. But it was my daughter, who was like 16 at the time. And she said, you say ow all the time. I'm like,
oh, goodness. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make an appointment. And sure enough, it was, he's like, yeah, you need a hip replacement. I was like in shock. So, and swimming never bothered the hip ever, and sure, I don't have a perfect kick. One of them does a double. And actually the double kick is on the bad leg and the single's on the good leg. So however that works, I don't know. I could never do breaststroke.
Yeah.
I had the angle didn't go right, and I still can't do that correctly. But I did have the hip replacement in 2017, and it was complicated. They lengthened the short leg.
I was wondering. Okay, my mom just had hip replacement surgery a couple weeks ago, and anyway, so I was curious if they were able to kind of.
Yeah, so they were able to do that. So it was a long surgery. It's about 5 hours because it was it's deformed. And then so they lengthened me, so I had a longer recovery with a walker for like 2 months, and then a cane for about 3 months. And then I thought I was doing great. And I could walk a lot better and do a lot more things. But like a year and a half later, I had to have a revision.
Oh, no.
Because he could see on the x-ray, like I put off the 1 year follow-up. I'm like, I'll just go at the end of summer, And
right, because we're busy.
Just from the x-ray that the stem didn't attach to the bone at the bottom.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like the poster child for it. I was like this swimmer, and I was doing so much stuff. And then here I am, the one that has like the lowest percent of how that can happen is me.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, what if I don't do anything? He's like, I need to pop out. I'm like, okay, fine. So I did it a year and a half later, exactly, which is super rare. And he kept saying, it all depends on how it goes. If I can get it out quickly and easily, it's great. If not, it's going to take longer. And sure enough, they couldn't get it out. So they had to break the femur to get it out.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I was weight bearing again. So like in a 2-year period, I was using a walker for about 4 months and a cane for about 6-7 months.
Oh my gosh.
In a 2-year period. That was just like 4 years ago.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Good thing you were a swimmer.
Don't tell your mom that.
Yeah. I won't.
But I remember the nurses even saying, like, I don't think he's ever had a revision.
Oh.
I know, so it stunk, but it's okay. I can still walk a lot now, more than I used to. And the only problem I have are stairs. I have a hard time going upstairs. The muscle's really weak on that side. And there's just not enough hours of my day to swim and work and do all the other things.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Did you know that there's more to swimming than just putting one arm in front of the other? You've developed a series of habits over your time in the water. How are those habits serving you? If you'd like to swim faster, but feel like nothing you do in your training helps, or perhaps you're inspired to swim further, but it doesn't seem possible, let me know. You are biologically wired for change, but you can't do the same thing that you've always done. It's time for something different. I've created a 6-week program to rewire your brain to swim freestyle efficiently, suitable for any level of swimmer. Check out intrepidwater.com to find out more about my Introduction to Freestyle Fundamentals, self-paced, and group coaching programs, or email me for details. Shannon@intrepidwater.com. let's get back to the swimming part. So at some point in there was kids and when did you start swimming further or thinking that was a thing?
Um, so I joined in 1995, and then in 1996, I did my first open water swim, and that was a 1 mile swim at a camp around Milwaukee area, and I fell in love with it. I knew right away. I'm like, that was pretty awesome. But at that time, there wasn't a lot. So I just did that one. And then there was another local one in a quarry. So for like 2-3 years, I did those. And then I had kids. So I was just trying to manage everything in between all that time. Then I did a 3 mile one. And, I just kept pushing the limits a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a 5 mile in Minnesota. And I remember sitting on the beach and they're like, just swim to that water tower on the other side. And I couldn't even see it. I'm like, that's that's far.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was probably like around 2004 or 5.
Mm-hmm. And are you like training with other people who are doing these? 5 miles is a big deal when it's your first 5 mile swim.
I am a complete solo swimmer. I don't swim with a team. I've been like that for the longest time. And
started those days in the pool, the private club, when you're going and letting yourself in.
Right?
Yeah.
And I am so independent, but I swim at a place called the Wisconsin Athletic Club. And it's there's probably 8 of them in the Milwaukee area, but they have a pool and they open at 4 a.m. And I am one of the crazies. Me and a few people are the crazy people there at 4 o'clock. Even before that, we're there talking. Mm-hmm. And it's reliable. I used to belong to Wise, and then a lifeguard doesn't show. And then the poor swimmers are stuck in the locker room with a closed door. And it's so frustrating, so frustrating. So I was so happy to go to this place because there are no lifeguards.
Yeah.
It's just a small 4-lane pool, but it's a 25-yard pool. And it's cooler than the Wise. So I just knew that first day I went there, I'm like, oh, yeah. And it was right across the street from my work, so I could see my office from the pool.
Oh, that's perfect. Anyone looking for me?
I know. I'm like, I'll be there soon. Yeah. So I feel so lucky. And even during COVID, they opened up like June 1st. We didn't have to reserve lanes, and it's not like a super crowded place, so a lot of people didn't come. And I never felt unsafe, but I had the pool back again. So I am very thankful for that club to be there for me.
What a gift. Yeah, to have access to that. And, not even just the pandemic, like to just have the access to a place where you can, get up early and whatever, not have to worry about the staffing issues become a really big issue in a lot of places around the country. So that's nice to have that available and so close to work. What a deal. No wonder you stuck with this swimming thing.
But then since COVID, I work from home now. So I still go in at 4 and I kind of just slide into my desk a little bit later. So yeah. I can get in about 3 hours before oh
my gosh,
I come home.
Wow.
So I'm very lucky. And I share a lane maybe 20% of the time. Otherwise I have my own lane, and otherwise we just split it and there's no issues really. So I think I'm one of the lucky ones that way.
Yeah. How do you feel 3 hours at the pool? What do you do?
I do sets. I do a long warm up. I usually get about 10,000 yards a day.
Wow.
And a long warm up. And then I do like about a 6,000 to 7,000 set of some kind, usually descending. I think on Monday I did 600s. And yesterday I did 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It just depends on when I get there. I just decide. But I'm just so not your traditional swimmer that way, because I just do it on my own. And
yeah.
And it works for me. I do have a hard time, like if I had to go with somebody, just like the waiting around, and the talking, and I just get in and go. It's not like, and I'll talk once in a while. Mm-hmm. And I have one girlfriend that likes to talk on Tuesday, Thursdays. So we used to sit at the end and talk. And I said, well, that's crazy. So we would just kick for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel a little more productive that way.
Right. Yeah.
And she's still talking at me.
Right. Yeah. So what was your impetus to you'd mentioned your 1 mile and 3 mile, and then you're just like, well, gosh, 3 was fine. What's this 5 like? Is that how it went? You're just, what could I do?
And I didn't know much about marathon swimming at the time. I don't know if it was just because I was too busy with kids or whatnot, but I did there's a lake by us called Geneva Lake. And 2009, that's an 8 mile swim. And I don't know how I heard about it, but there was like maybe a handful of us, maybe like no more than 10. And we had like 2 kayakers and we just crossed this very busy lake.
Wow.
And I'm just like, it's a little scary,
Yeah.
but I did it.
Yeah.
And I continued to do that one for 10 years. And it was a fundraiser. And eventually they had us get our own boat.
Wow.
And then about 3-4 years ago, they cut the distance down because it was just too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of a swim. But it's a beautiful lake. And then I think after 2 years or so, I was like really tired afterwards. And then my friend, he was so pumped afterwards. And he took like hours after me. He's like, well, I had some Diet Coke and some Little Debbie snack cakes. I'm like, wait a second here. Now I need to know about nutrition and what's going on.
Wow.
I was clueless.
You just would go and swim 8 miles. No big deal. Wow.
I do, so I started to look into that a little bit, and I started to use Infinite for swimming. I don't use it anymore, but I started out with it, and it definitely helped.
Yeah, to have a little energy pick me up in between. Yeah, for sure.
And then I did my first official 10K was in Noblesville, where they used to have USMS championship swim. So that's in Indiana. So that was about a 4-hour drive. So it wasn't too bad. But that's kind of where I had my first kind of bigger competition with this open water swimming.
How did that feel for you? Kind of where you were coming from? That
first one was really hot outside. And then the following year they had a 25K there, 5 loops. And it was tough. I got out of there and I was just like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to do that again. Because it's not that fun to swim in loops, first of all.
Right.
And I probably didn't have my nutrition figured out as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and then there was a rainstorm. So they cut out the time limit from 10 hours to 8 hours. So that knocked out like 30 people. But I squeaked in and I got in and I was like one of the second to last people to finish in that group of people that were able to finish. So I was happy about that. But I didn't think I would be doing much more after that. And then someone talked me into End Wet the next year. And at that time, it was 27 miles. It wasn't the 36.
Wasn't the 36. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the first year they did End Wet. And there was 12 of us that did it. And I remember the race director the next day saying, I never thought you guys would all finish.
I kind of got that impression when I went, like the way that they run it. It's like, I don't know that they know that this actually happens all the time. Even though they put the events on, they still were kind of like not swimmers, really.
Oh, no. And I remember like we mentioned to somebody that we were coming there to swim at one of the locals. And they're like, you're swimming in that? I'm like, yeah. So that was my first farthest distance. I mean, that was 27.
Yeah.
I think it was 9 hours or so, 9.5 hours.
Did you train in open water too, in addition to your 3 hours in the morning at the pool with 10K every day?
At that time, no, I didn't have much open water training. It was pretty much pool and then the open water swimming. Wow. And Darren Miller helped me kind of, I asked him for advice about training and when to peak and nutrition. So he helped me a lot to figure that out. So that was nice.
Yeah.
And then I did his 3 rivers swim after that a couple of years later. And that was fun.
Yeah. I really want to make it to that one someday. I love the idea of it. That's cool. How was that? How was the Pittsburgh swim for you?
Oh, that was fun. It was just 3 of us. We were kind of testing the course.
Okay.
So it was just a fun experience. Yeah. Except the last little loop was tough, and you're tired and you're like, where's the buoy? And you're asking the guy, he's like, I don't see it either. And he's calling like, we don't see it. You got to go farther. And it just pushed, it was going against us, but the ride back was fast.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But passing like the Pittsburgh Pirates Stadium, I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
there's something. Yeah. The urban swims or something about that. I guess I love the idea that somebody's thinking about water cleanliness enough around a city that they're at least testing the water and making sure it's safe enough to swim. And then the idea that maybe we could, by being present in the water, it would make other people think about the cleanliness of the water. I love the idea of it maybe influencing other people to either be aware, either to swim or be aware of water quality issues. So I love urban swims. It's very cool. When you have those moments of like, you're just having to keep going, like how do you kind of push through some of that, because it can be really hard in the middle of a swim, current, turn, whatever it is. How do you kind of push through that?
I start to count strokes. I often do that. And just trying to feel like I'm making some headway at least. And I just get in deep into it, and I just try not to let things distract me. I'm pretty easygoing in that sense. I'm not like yelling at my kayaker and telling them which way to go. I always tell them, you're my eyes and ears. I follow you. Just take me there the quickest way you can.
Yes, right. That's a great quality, I think, in a swimmer. I'm sure the kayakers appreciate it. And it's so where I feel like it's interesting to me to witness like swimmers that have a different perspective on that kind of relationship. It's a big growth opportunity, I think, for someone to like make this shift and realize that they need to trust somebody, because it's it's hard.
And I remember at SCAR, so I was there that year you were there.
Oh, in 2014,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did 3 of them, and that was my first exposure to very cold water. And I don't like cold water. And that's why I tend to pick swims that are not like really cold. I did do Roosevelt last year, and then I did 2 of the swims the previous year, but I am not a fan. Being from Wisconsin, I just can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're training a lot in the pool, and you're not having or whatever, I think that I fully respect everybody for just doing whatever they're comfortable with. And
right. And if I'm going to pay a lot of money, right? If I'm going to pay a lot of money to do something, I want to enjoy it at least. I don't want to be like worried about the cold and, leading up to it. That just doesn't work well for me.
Yeah.
So I think I'm limited in some events, because I think of things as events. I don't think of them as races. That's
what I call them too. They're events. I talk to my swimmers that I coach about, like they're kind of milestones in your life in a way. It's like when you can sit here and look back and be like, I did my first 8-mile swim in 2000. Like it's I was pregnant or I had a baby, it's a big life event. When we grow, we learn so much about ourselves in the process. So they're events. I
totally
agree.
Yeah. And I say I'm going swimming. I never say I'm training. I don't say I'm going to practice. I'm going swimming. And that line of just a girl who loves to swim is totally mine, because I truly just love to swim. And I don't need to swim that long, but I have the opportunity to, so I take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I like the way I feel afterwards. I have a lot of friends at the club. It's fun.
That's great.
And so in 2020, the COVID year, I moved to a different area. So I got divorced and I moved about 10 miles north, and it's called Lake Country.
Oh.
And I have access to so many lakes.
Oh,
they're cold still. They're 57 right now.
Okay. What's your threshold? Have you?
I say mid-60s.
Yeah.
I'm okay. And I don't want to wear a wetsuit, so I'm not going to go in colder. And there's no reason to. Like, why would I go in there when it's so cold? Like, I don't want to.
Know thyself. That's good.
But within probably a 10-mile radius of where I live, there are 14 lakes that are swimmable.
Wow. Boats? Lots of boats on them, or?
Well, I go super early. So I go at 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And I swim the perimeter of the lakes.
Yeah.
So in 2020, I swam 20 lakes in the area.
Wow. That's so cool.
So the DNR loved it because I'm using their lakes, and they did an article on it.
Oh, neat.
And they helped me because they gave me ideas about the lakes and where to go.
Yeah. How helpful.
That was so helpful. But yeah, I'm just waiting for them to get a little bit warmer. Yeah. So but I can get to one end. The closest one walking distance is 20 minutes from my house.
Oh my gosh, that's lovely.
And that's my least favorite one, actually.
Right.
But I have other ones in all directions I can go.
That's great.
lake. Yeah.
That's so cool. So in 2020, you moved to this area where there's a lot more lakes. But before that, I mean, obviously you were doing open water events. Were you training as much in the open water, like for
Well,
your
that
events?
was pre-COVID, so I had to be work at a little better time.
Oh, right,
So
right.
I probably swam 2.5, 2 to 2.5. And then I tried to get to work as quickly as possible to make it look good that I was at my desk.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I was still swimming events. I'm trying to think. Like I did swim around Key West. I did that one. I like that one. I did Scar a few times. The Pittsburgh swim. I'm trying to think. I did swim the Suck, Bridges to Bluff.
Mm-hmm.
Just anyone that I could afford, and then go
And travel to, right? Yeah, so much, so true. What's been kind of your favorite swim that you've been to, for why?
20 Bridges was pretty awesome in 2021.
That's very cool. Yeah.
That was more of a, I think, epic swim. I mean, it's just so, that was my first time in New York. So it was just so big to me, everything. So that was fun. My hardest was probably St. Lucia last year.
Oh, tell me about St. Lucia.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's warm. And I'm happy. But leading up to it, my friend Eric was supposed to go with me. And then his dad was getting sick. So I didn't have anyone, like, up until 2 days before I left. I didn't have anybody going with me. And I'm like, I don't want to go to an island by myself. It's fun. So I was kind of getting my feelers out. And my swimming friend, who doesn't never done like marathon swims, but she was available, and you needed a passport. So that was two things you needed to be available
Right.
and a passport.
Yes.
So my youngest daughter couldn't go because her passport was expired. My son said, "I'll be your last resort." I'm like, thank you. So she came through for me, but she had COVID the week of.
Oh no.
So we didn't book her tickets till Tuesday night, and we left Thursday morning.
Oh my gosh.
Because she was still positive and she was testing every day.
Oh my God.
She felt fine.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So once I got over that hurdle of like, that's stressful enough as it is.
Yes.
It's a beautiful place. The water's warm. It's very salty. So, and I don't have anywhere to train for salty water.
I was gonna go there, yeah.
So it's a 21-mile swim. And you start in St. Lucia, and you pretty much, you rent a catamaran for the day. And so Sue Dyson organizes it all, and she has her crew, and, everybody came and we met up. And the downside was I had to get out for a storm.
Oh, that is
a pop-up storm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just life. They put me exactly where I left off, and then I finished. So it was like 70 minutes into it. And then I had to get out. And, she said she was talking to Evan about everything. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'm like, whatever. I just tell me what to do and I do it. But it's not going to be ratified, but it will still be, if they consider it a completed swim.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and she felt so bad about it. And I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, say a storm popped up halfway through, that swimmer's not going to go back all the way and start over again. I mean, it's just life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was hard. That was the first time I got sick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
was the waves pretty?
About 3 to 3.5 foot swells.
Wow.
So the frustrating part was I could always see St. Lucia on my right because I breathe on my right, but I could never see Martinique because the swells were so big. Yeah. So that part was frustrating. She gave me a really good spray that kind of helped soothe the mouth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good. So I would squirt that in, and then I didn't feel well. And the one guy in the crew was like, just be free, let it go. And I'm like, I can't. So I'd swim a little more, and then I'm like, yeah, I think I can. So, and I told him, I said, this is the first time I've gotten sick since high school drinking days. Like I have a strong stomach. Like that threw me big time,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And then after that, I felt so much better.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet that's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah. So I did have Coke with Black Coke. So I thought of bringing that. My nutrition wasn't working well. I don't know if it's just because it was salt water and just so different than what I'm used to. Because
right.
in New York, all these goo gels fell out of my soup when I got changed. It worked out fine. And that's what I used a lot of time. But it did not work well for this. And they kept telling me, you need to eat. And I'm like, nothing sounds good. And then I remember seeing some bread on the kitchen table up in the boat. I'm like, make me some bread balls. So they made bread balls for me. But I totally was deficient in calories that day.
Yeah, that happens. I think that happens anyway when we swim, but then to be losing your feed and trying to keep going for sure.
And then he kept telling me things in kilometers, and I don't think in kilometers at all.
Right.
And I'm just like, just tell me how far.
On a scale I
was a little frustrated towards the end. I was frustrated, and and I couldn't see the island, and I'm like, but where are we?
How did you kind of push through that?
Yeah, that was after all said and done, it was like 13 hours and 14 minutes. So that was a long swim, but I definitely would choose tropical versus cold.
Mm-hmm. So how did it feel what was it like at the finish? Can you take us there? Like just seeing the ground and
well, I couldn't see it because it was dark.
Oh goodness. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then I remember her telling me, go here, don't go there, and I just kind of was like, tell me where to go. And, it was hard because it was dark. And so they had to get the dinghy out and kind of guide me because I couldn't see anything. So it was dark. There was no lights at the island or anything.
Right. Wasn't it romantic? The ground coming up beneath you and being able to take your first steps. No, none of that.
Not at all. No.
Oh, man.
But I mean, the water is beautiful. The temperature is perfect for me. And it's a beautiful place to visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think you go back? Are you a go backer or a go somewhere else? Or I feel like there's kind of
different things. The only time I repeat is if I don't have much else going on and I just want to do something. But I certainly try to do different things. I think I've had 15 different states that I swam in marathon swims.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always trying to find something new. Last year I went to Nebraska to swim the Cornhusker Nancy's
yeah, that's great.
So I went there and I did Ocean City swim in Maryland and stayed with my friend Janet. Janet Manning.
Mm-hmm. I've heard. I haven't not met personally, but yeah. What was that swim like?
Oh, that was a fun one. So that was another ocean one, and I watched a video of the swimmers getting in the water, and I was the absolute last. Because the waves are hitting me, and I'm just like, well, and people are going. I'm just trying to get steady. But I was the first to finish.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was that, and that was just along the shore. So it was fun. It was a 9-miler. It was.
That's great.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're looking forward to this year?
I'm doing Maui Nui.
Ooh. Fun.
In July.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's and my youngest daughter's coming with me, so she is thrilled to come. Mm-hmm. So that's the big one I have going on, and I'm going to try to do a couple of my own swims to get ratified. I know what I need to do it because I've done 2 of them. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
but it's doable.
Yeah. Who is it that documented the Finger Lakes? I mean, you're near so many lakes. It's kind of fun if you can, document them.
But you got to go point to point. You can't do the perimeter like I do. So I've got to find the right place to go, and so it takes more coordination, and then I got to have 2 people to come with me.
Right. Yeah.
It's not as easy as just plopping in and going.
No, right. Which is, I totally hear you. Yeah.
So in the mornings when it's really dark and I can't see the piers yet, I write with my Garmin and I write my name out and stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I have fun playing around in the middle of the lake because I consider it my lake because no one is up and it's mine.
Yeah. I think I've seen some of your writings. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And I'm sure people just are like, what is that crazy girl doing out there? Going in circles and
spell your name. It's important.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
it's just something different to do.
Yeah,
but it's just swimming is just. I mean, I think it's the best sport.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
when I think of like people who did basketball or volleyball in high school in those days, like how many people are doing that still? Like you can't, but swimmers, we can always go back.
It's a lifelong sport.
Yeah. And I always try to tell people, like if they need hip replacements, I'm like, just do it. You will be so happy. It's not fun. The timing's never great ever,
Right.
but you can do it. And if you go in that pool, like I water walk for hours in circles.
Oh my gosh.
For recovery, it was, and I saw him a 10K both of those mornings of the surgery.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'd come in and I was like, I'm ready. I swam. And
yeah.
I tell you, the hip is fine.
Have you hit like a distance threshold? Like that you're like, I don't need to swim any more than this? Or are you still kind of seeking that out?
I think my sweet spot is between like 10, 20 miles is kind of what I like probably the most. And, like I have no desire to do the English Channel. It's not even on my list. I just know what I like to do and I'm going to stick to the things and not worry. They're so expensive and just to pay to worry, it's not me.
Right. Or to get weathered out or whatever. There's so many factors to it.
Yeah. But if I can make up a couple of my own, and there's plenty of places around here to go. And I have one mapped out for end of June already around here. That's about a half-hour walk from my house. This lake that's about almost 5 miles long. So I'll do a double crossing of that. And yeah, it's fun.
I love it. But there's not like but you're just completely on your own. So you don't have a little community supporting you. You just kind of have to pull people out of the air to come and.
Yeah. And and it's great to see, like our little swimming community is awesome. I mean, I just love to go places and see the people.
You mean like the marathon swim community, right? Right.
Yeah. And I remember going to SCAR that first year and, it was like going to camp for a week, an adult camp.
Right.
And I just remember getting ready to go home and I'm like, I don't want to go home. This is too fun. And then my family's all happy to see me and I'm like, hi, So I love that part of it and seeing people but where I am in Wisconsin, like I'm like the only one that does the crazy stuff like this. So
today, but who knows? Maybe someday.
I mean, there's some people swimming in Lake Michigan already with wetsuits, but that's about a 35-minute drive from my house. And
yeah. The Great Lakes don't get warm. Do they get warm enough for you to like consider
I've
a big?
Done like a relay. Marcia Cleveland had a relay once from like North Chicago to South Chicago.
Oh wow!
And I remember my first leg of it. It was like at 11 at night or something, and it was like 60. And I'm like, oh, get me out of here! I'm like, be strong, Mel. Be strong. You can do this. But yeah, and then. Like at SCAR last year or the year before when it was so cold and the dam was releasing water and it was 52 for Apache. And after 10 minutes, I'm like, I'm out of here. Just swim 10 minutes more. I'm out of here. Yeah. It's too cold here. I mean, the lakes aren't even frozen by the time SCAR starts. So you can't even get acclimated to anything out here. So it's a short season, but it's going to be starting in about a week.
Yeah, that's great.
And I just go exploring and find the lakes and where I could park and sneak in and stuff like that.
I love it. Any last bits of marathon swim advice you want to share?
Well, I always say swimming's my happy place, and I hope people can find their passion, even if it's not swimming, just to do something that you love to do. I mean, it's the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have so much fun. And I'm actually an ambassador for Finney's too. So they promote the swimming and they put stuff on the blogs and stuff about what's going on. And I'm a tester for their products. So I test the MP3 I've been using since they came out like in 2004. I've been using them. So I would ask all these questions all the time because they would die on me. And they're like, do you want to test them? I'm like, okay. So I've been testing them since. Because I give them I put a lot of time onto them and then I can give them information. So that's helpful. And then I also test their smart goggles, which is so awesome. It's the best thing. Yeah.
That's fun. Cool.
Yeah. I don't even look at a pace clock. It's all right there. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
That is interesting.
Yeah. It's not set up for outdoor swimming yet, but someday maybe. But
interesting.
It's definitely changed the way I swam. I mean, I can see exactly where I am or where I should be, and I can pick it up, and I love it.
Interesting.
I don't know if coaches would like it if they had a big group of people with them. I don't know if that would fly, but
I think I like to look at, I guess how the technology serves us versus how we're being served by, like how, if it could be enabling in some way, like you're saying, where you are along the way. In the coaching that I do, we try to tune into our stroke length, and then balance our tempo to find pace. And we do that without any, I guess sometimes we do tempo trainer. We use the Finnish tempo trainer for that. But to find yourself in the water, we don't want to look too much at some other external factor when we're trying to, be in our body. But we do have to find, I'm not even making sense anymore. But I'm curious, I guess it's like how that could complement the type of, I guess, coaching idea would be interesting to look into.
And coach, and like, I'm sure coaches, the way they train these kids are so different now than what it used to be. I mean, when I was in high school, we had a kickboard and no fins, no pull buoy, nothing, like that was what we had. And now you see all the stuff they have in their bags, and
they shouldn't. I don't know that that's helpful. Any of that stuff's helpful, but there's a lot of people making stuff to pass time in the water. But how is that making them know their body in the water better? I don't know if it is. That's.
I just love to swim. I'm happy.
I love it.
And if I don't swim, I'm not happy. So that's why I swim almost every day, because I just like the way I feel, and I'm lucky to have pools. Unlike there's about an hour and a half from my house, they still have to reserve lanes. And I'm like, really? Like, I just can't believe that that's still going on.
I think for some busy pools, it became a way to manage what was kind of chaos before, like in that people fighting for lanes. And so it became like, oh, wow, look at this. We could, smooth it over by having set times. If they were having capacity issues or something. I don't know. I think that lots of interesting things were learned from the pandemic.
Oh, totally. But yeah, working from home has been to my advantage.
Yeah, I love it. I've been working remotely for about 20 years. I think I started in 2003. So.
Oh, wow.
So when the pandemic hit, I was like, I could finally, people understand what it's like to not have to commute. But, I get that it's not for everybody,
Right. But yeah, I'm lucky. And I can take long vacations if I need to go to swims and stuff like that. So I'm fortunate.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Melodee.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I love listening to your stories. And I think your commercials have like the soothing sound. Your voice is so soothing. I'm like, oh, I could just take a little rest here. Good. And I love to listen to your podcasts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you were inspired by even just a moment of this story, please share it with a friend. You never know what might push someone out of their comfort zone so that they can find out what they're capable of. And please leave a review with your podcast provider. It truly helps others discover the raw and honest stories of these amazing endurance swimmers. Thanks for listening.